it is, if you feel you are starting, not with agape, you need to really seek agape. Otherwise, at the end of the day, when pressure comes, love between friends can fail. When pressure comes, love between family members can fail. Perhaps the most popular one that they sing about is eros, which is sexual kind of love. Let me read 2 Samuel chapter 13 verse 1 and 2, because we have a story here where Amnon, fell in love, quote unquote, with his, I think it's his half-sister. And there's a phrase here. In verse 1, 2 Samuel 13:1 says, "And it came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister, whose name was Tamar, and Amnon, the son of David, loved her." The same word love is used here. "And Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her." Now, most girls will give anything for a guy that doesn't see them for a few days and can't eat, can't sleep, it's just not, the guy really falls sick, because the Bible says he fell sick. That means he was totally emotionally over. But the thing that followed was a case of rape. So how do you explain this passion that is so strong that leads to a violation of the other person? Yet the Bible says he fell sick. So sometimes when you see, it does not, this notion that when you feel so much emotion, this was emotion and all kinds of things wrapped together. When you feel that kind of emotion, it must be right. It just proves that this is just a physical thing. It's a physical thing, and it brought pain to the girl at the end of the day. It brought pain to Tamar at the end of the day. And so feeling some chemistry, some hormonal stuff in the body, in the head, does not translate to the love of God that we're talking about. Of course, you need eros even in a marriage in order to consummate the marriage, to raise a family, and to express your love to each other. But eros on its own will only bring a lot of pain, because it's basically is about me. It's about personal gratification when it is outside the confines of a marriage. I don't know.
You're right about that, because even still looking at the story of Amnon and Tamar, you find that once he defiled her, the same feeling he called love now translated, it became hatred for her. It was so strong that he doesn't even want to see her again. So the feelings that people call love, sometimes it's definitely not the agape love of God most of the time. In this case, it was basically eros. He was just interested in her physically, not in her person, not in having a permanent relationship with her, but he was interested in what he could get out of her at that point. And a relationship where that comes before the commitment, it's not a relationship that is pleasing to God, basically, because God will always expect us as his children to do things in according to his plans, in according to the rules that he has laid down for us. So the sexual love, it will work when the others are in place. Agape, phileo, storge, when the three are in place, it works best, it's best, its own role comes in after the couple are married, not before the marriage vows are made. So that's the place that it has to play. And a broken relationship is always better than a broken marriage at any point in time. No matter what it is, it's better to get your heart broken before you get married than after you're married. Because once you're married and something comes up and you have to break the relationship, you now find there's a stigma that follows it, and it's more difficult because the soul ties at that point become very strong. So the 4 kinds of love are there, but the ideal love in a marriage relationship is agape love. That is the God kind of love, the one that God has ordained that will hold the relationship, the marital relationship together.
And someone may say, well, if agape is all I need, does it mean there will be no chemistry between me and the person? When you know the will of God, agape love in your heart, all these other things will come in naturally. The important thing is just to be sure this is the will of God for me. And then all these things will come in naturally. Because we see in the case of Amnon, he seemed to hate her as much as he said he loved her.
Yes.
So you sit back and what is that? There have been many young people who the guy says, okay, if you say you love me, you have to sleep with me. In a lot of people, unfortunately, even some so-called Christians, they put young people in that kind of situation. Well, prove that you love me. And the guy says, okay. And then after that, the guy loses interest because it wasn't love. It was just a sexual gratification he wanted. And once he got that, he said, well, so what's the big deal? And I think that sex is not a proof of love. When the guy is telling you that you must sleep with me to prove that you love me, well, Amnon did it, and it turned to hatred. And I believe that when there is a true relationship, you can wait for the physical part of the relationship. It doesn't have to be anything you can't wait for, where you say, I don't have control. I'm so much in love with you. If I don't do this, I'm going to do this. It just shows that God hasn't given us anything we can't control. We are supposed to be able to put our members under subjection. So I really believe that guys who are asking for the proof of love through sexual gratification, they're actually just taking undue advantage of the other person. We are dealing with very many modern thinking now. A lot of people say, well, if we love ourselves, love can never be wrong. Love, whatever love allows you to do, whatever love. What about the aftermath of that? The guilt and condemnation. It's not worth it for a child of God. And a lot of people think, well, as long as I'm not pregnant, I'm fine. But I think that is just you can tell yourself, well, if I wear a glove in my hand and I put my hand in a bucket filled with snakes, I'm fine. It's crazy because you can't wear protection over your heart when you sin against God. It's a stain. It's a stain. So I really feel that it's time that people do the right thing. If you have strong emotions about somebody, why don't you start seeking God? God, is this the person for me? Before you allow yourself to fall. Because I think everything starts with thoughts and emotions. You can have so many thoughts and emotions in the course of one day, but the one that settles in you is the one you take. I love that scripture where Jesus says, talking about worry, say, don't take a thought saying. Because it's when you take the thought and say, I think I really like this guy. When the thought begins to build in you, because you already have a propensity, your emotions are already going that way, it can become overwhelming where you can't control it. So I think it's important to, before you, I'm trying to find the right word for that, before you let go and say, okay, here, it's like taking a jump from a cliff. Before you throw yourself into that emotion, be sure that's the direction you want to go. Because sometimes when you let yourself go with an emotion, trying to put the brakes on sometimes You cannot. And when people, there are the laws of boundaries. For example, you already see that you are getting emotional about somebody and you're not sure it's the will of God, or you have strong checks about that person. That's not the time to be dating them or just going off somewhere, because you can lose it. So I think that it's important that we know that we must know the will of God, that this is the person for me. And even if your emotions are wrong, you can check it before it becomes something that is totally out of hand, something that instead of being a blessing, it's a curse, like in this kind of case that we see that. And like you were saying, that it's better to have a broken relationship than a broken marriage. Because a broken relationship, you grieve over some time, you go through, But a broken marriage, when children are already involved and you've done all the ceremony, it's a difficult one. So, and the fact that somebody walks out of your life doesn't mean that's the end. Usually, for a child of God, God has something better. That's why God allows things like that. Yeah, so I believe that with this kind of foundation, spending the time we need to hear God and making the right choice based on the Word of God, and settling our destinies, having an idea of the direction we're going, and of course, people can begin to make intelligent decisions. There's something else we need to add to this. What is the role of, in choosing a life partner? People, what about your spiritual guides and your family, your parents, your spiritual parents, your natural parents? What role do they play in this kind of decision?
It's very, very, very important that you talk with those who are older than you, your natural parents, your spiritual parents in the Lord. Talk with them, seek their counsel, and try to get from them the feedback, as to what they think about it. I would like to say that for you as a person looking for a life partner, you need to hear from God for yourself, because you're the one going to live with that person. You're the one going to be dealing with the person on a daily basis, with the character of the person and all that. Hear from them, because they have the years of experience. If they're spiritual leadership, their spiritual relationship with God, the fact that God has given them oversight over you, gives them a role to play. But it's important that on your own you know what God is saying to you. Be willing to hear from them. Be willing to take counsel from them. But what is God speaking to you as an individual? Marriage is a covenant relationship. It cannot be entered into anyhow, and it cannot be broken. A covenant relationship is not meant to be broken at any point in time. So it's good that you listen to those with oversight over you, take their experience, learn from their own experience, but allow God to speak to you.
The Bible says, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. It's important to Proverbs 11:14, where no counsel is, the people fail or fall, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety. It doesn't also mean you should look for counsel from everybody who walks through your path. Like they say, if somebody is offering you a t-shirt, you have to look at what they're wearing. Sometimes you have to look at maybe marriages that are inspiring you, or people in your life. God can use them as confirmation to you that look, and if they know you well, they can see certain things. I mean, you've dealt with the spiritual, then you come, this is also spiritual, but you're talking to people and and things like that. I know that we had a missionary who was our friend in our own time, and that was someone that God really used, like a mother in the Lord, that God used to also speak. You know, she was, you know, we talked a lot, and she said, well, I really think this person will suit you, you know, and also prayed. It's good to have that kind of independent confirmation, because it's a life journey. It's not something you are doing for 3 months. Like I always say, the wrong road cannot become the right road, no matter how long you're walking that road. So if you have constant checks about somebody, maybe you just give it another thought. But you know, that counsel comes in, and that can be more of a confirmation. It's not that you're going to them to say, please help me to hear, is this God, is this not God? But when you feel it's God, or if you have questions, you can say, please pray about this, I'm a bit unsettled. And a good person will actually help you to answer the question yourself. They don't try to force their opinion. They will ask you questions like, questions that will help you to see, like, okay, are you at peace about this? Is this person's value consistent with your own? Can you see yourself getting old with this person? If you have an emergency, do you think this person can stand spiritually around you? You know, things like that. So that counsel is absolutely vital. It's an important thing. We must hear from people that are mature, or even more mature than ourselves. And I think that safety comes in there, and it's a big blessing. So yeah, I think we've covered quite a number of bases, and my prayer is that those who listen, they will, you know, the other issue that often comes up here is that someone says, what if I'm pregnant? You know, someone says, well, I'm already pregnant. You know, I still think you need to seek the will of God. If you are pregnant for a married man, doesn't mean you should become his second wife or something like that, or break up his home or something like that. Or if you're even pregnant as a single, if you don't have the peace about the person, I would advise you to settle down with somebody you are sure it wasn't the will of God. Otherwise, you just get on the wrong road that God hasn't planned for you, and on a highway, if you miss your turn, you know, the exit, sometimes to get back on the right road can be very, very difficult. So it's not good to take the wrong exit just because, you know, there's nothing to do, I'm under pressure, my people want me to just marry. I remember we're in one country like that, and one, you know, the family we stayed with, many years ago, the daughter had 2 children and her husband left her. But we believe God, and God brought somebody else. So it's possible God can turn that thing around. So I hope that this has been a blessing to people, and yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being with us this time. We believe you've been blessed, and we pray that the Lord will help you even as you seek His face in this important matter of a marital partner. God bless you.